Hi all, I thought I'd test out the new T60 network of Leela with one of the fun openings we've been covering recently on the channel, the Frankenstein Dracula variation. So this is ID 61007 playing black against Xiphos. So I've been provided some interesting games by Decap. This is on a very fast and furious time limit, 1 minute with 1 second increments. So he reckons at the moment the 61007 is weaker than a lot of the standard engines he was testing with. It's just a baby as yet. What's new in the Test 60 network? From the blog, there's a few key points that have been mentioned. First of all, the era of the Test 40 is finished. It did well in winning one of the TSEC editions. Stockfish has been fighting back recently with great successes. So it's the beginning of the story against the neural networks, it seems. The Test 60 network has residual tower sizes 320 times 24. So that's 24 blocks, 320 filters. Policy head is Alpha 0 style. So that's an 8 by 8 by 73 instead of plain 1858 vector. Value head is WDL instead of using fixed nodes for every move while training. And this is very technical stuff. KLD threshold is used instead. Think less in obvious cases, think more in complicated cases. But in average, it's still about the same as it was. Illegal moves are masked from policy ahead, so the neural network doesn't have to learn detecting illegal moves. Instead of training value head just based on game outcome, a fraction of the tree's Q value after the move is added. So yeah, there's an interesting blog post. A lot of technical differences, actually. It's not just a larger network. There's a few other key points there of the Test 60. So this is really just in development, and this is just a fun test game. So let's have a look. So E4 from Xiphos, the opening book given, the Frankenstein Dracula. So this is in the Vienna game, knight f6, bishop c4, knight takes e4. So if white routinely takes here, then d5 and black's getting a fantastic game. So the critical test is actually going for it, queen h5. Knight d6, the boring move here, and I've played in a thematic tournament recently, and a lot of people are playing queen takes e5. That's actually rather dull because the queens get exchanged off. I think if you're doing a thematic, this line should be avoided. Maybe it should be forced to go a bit deeper to avoid this tempting line just to take the pawn. If white keeps the tension, that keeps a lot of the fun going. Bishop b3. We have knight c6 protecting the pawn now. White kind of renews the attack on f7 by playing knight b5, trying to distract the knight away from f7. g6, queen f3, f5, queen d5, so relentlessly threatening knight takes and queen f7. So this is all book as part of the Frankenstein Dracula. Here we're out of the book. So Leela's first move here is b6, as you might expect. It seems a very logical move to try and fianchetto the bishop, gain a tempo on the queen. Look at this diagonal. We see Xiphos playing queen d3, which seems logical in some respects, getting away from that in advance. Bishop b7, and now knight takes b6. This is a tempting materialistic move. Sometimes in human games this is delayed actually to give sometimes other options, but here it's taken immediately on this time limit especially. Knight e2, you might expect the classical AB engines to be slightly on the materialistic side. So f4, this is interesting now, very interesting. What is going on here with f4? We see white castling, not being too afraid of any potential kingside attack. Can Leela 61007, 007 in fact, I've just realised this is Leela's 007, 61007. Anyway, so g5, as in James Bond 007, anyway, g5 is played. Now at the moment, does this seem mostly pointless because the bishop is actually eyeing g8? How can this be used? Sometimes you might think this rook's going to sort of come into a sort of attack, but that seems a bit ambitious. We see knight c3, g4, knight d5, which seems again a materialistically tempting move to hit the queen, to hit the pawn. So queen g5 is played here. And then we see king h1. So, in fact, it seems in this position a critical move, believe it or not, is actually to play c3, which suppresses the possibility of knight b4, which might be handy to black under certain circumstances. So yeah, an interesting position, king h1 might not be the best move. So c3, for example, as an example, rook g8. Then there's knight f6 here with a double attack on the rook. So it's not just double checks that are powerful, double attacks generally on the same piece. Kind of force the piece to move if you don't want to lose it. But here, yeah, it is interesting. If here then bishop takes, what does black actually do in this position? It's getting tricky. Okay, so we have actually king h1, looks like a passive move, and it allows rook g8 basically. Rook e1 is played. Here, if knight f6, the key difference now is knight b4 is possible. And say queen takes h7, then rook g7, and that knight's just going to be gobbled up, protecting the bishop just in time. So that would be pretty unpleasant. Here, if queen c3 is an alternative, queen takes b4, knight f5 is strong, unleashing an attack on the queen, and f3 creates a killer form pawn over here, where actually, can you see what black can do here? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, black to play here. Okay, knight takes g3 is a killer move. One point is, I believe that f2 is unleashing the bishop here, and I don't think this helps actually. Queen f3 check is a pretty variation as an example. So yeah, that's unleashing the bishop. But the key point also that to note here is queen h6 check and queen h3. There's no time for white to do anything about this. So white would have to give, yeah, this is just spite checks and then getting mated. So rook e1 was played on rook g8. So black has gotten away with this rook lift. Basically, this rook lift is now happening. The battery is now happening. The batteries are often lethal in chess. We have queen e2, rook h6. So the battery is now happening. c3, queen h4, threatening checkmate. h3. Now, if black's not careful here, a way of wasting the position totally is g takes, because then actually g3. And this is absolutely, it's going to be equal actually, technically, believe it or not. White is weathering the storm. But no, as well as a battery, sometimes you need a pin. We have pin and win, knight e7, trying to pin this g2 pawn, which would facilitate queen takes h3 if that moves. So this is pretty dangerous. This knight has to stop that bishop from pinning that pawn. We have c4. If, just to put it on the board, knight takes, there's queen takes h3 check, and queen takes g2 checkmate. So c4, trying to stop this pinned pawn. Knight takes c4, a wonderful blasting move, yeah, opening up this bishop, crushing. Knight takes c4. Also strong here is knight df5. This is another variation which shows the strength of black's position. Here, white's just falling apart. You know, the possibility of knight g3 check here. Here, this is just all over. If, instead of giving up material like crazy here, queen e6, then bishop takes d5, queen f2, with the idea of knight g3 mating. Queen f3 check, bishop takes, and then there's bishop f4, which is going to be mating. White's running out of checks rapidly. So that's all. It's pretty lethal, creating this pin here. We have bishop takes c4, knight takes d5. So the pin's about to happen, it seems, whatever white does. We have bishop a6, challenging the pin piece. But here, a key move. Can you see what black does in this position? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay, knight c3, yes, attacking the queen, unleashing that pin on the g2 pawn. Bishop takes a6 is just wasting the position again. It seems as though black's got a big advantage, but it's slightly wasting the position compared to knight c3. So we have bishop takes, black just takes that queen. Yes, it's all over bar the shouting. g3, the game ended here. Both engines thought it was like +8 or more. As an example, if it carried on, because white's got technically some material here. Queen g4, for example, this position is going to get really dangerous with the battery again, and white would end up having to give up material. Yeah, it's just getting technically the best move apparently is to give up material, and yeah, it's just massive advantage for black. It's absolutely winning. So I'll take you to the game ends position, g3. So yeah, it was just testing on a fun time limit, nothing too serious. This 61007 network. I'm a fan of James Bond. Sorry, yeah, the 007 network of 61 does seem a lot of fun. It is making good progress in recent days. You can check the self-play graph. And it's nice actually that there is tension with Stockfish, that it managed to regain the TSEC crown. It was unfortunate the final didn't have Leela in it, but in the TSEC knockout, yeah, Leela was knocked out. I should try and cover that game soon. But also, yeah, this opening, this Frankenstein Dracula, is a fantastic thematic opening as long as you avoid the Queen Exchange variation. And you might want to check out the details of it. There's interesting trainable variations at Kingscrusher TV/Dracula if you want to check that out. Very, very exciting opening, which offers huge play actually for both sides. And this network seemed to make it look quite easily, establish a battery, get that pin going. There was a nice flow to this attacking game. But of course, it's a very, very fast time limit, and white missed out on crucial defensive moves like c3 earlier on. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much.